So now that we know about the three different types of lines, let's go ahead and solve a system of linear equations by graphing. So what that means is we are going to graph these two lines, and we're going to see, do they cross once, are they parallel, or are they in fact the same line? So this is going to be the only three possibilities when we graph these two. So I'm going to move my paper up. Now what I'm going to have you do is pause the video while I'm graphing, or right after I'm done, and then I want you to answer the question of where these lines are going to cross. So first one, this is y equals mx plus b. So let's find out what is m and what is b. Well, m is 1/2, b is 5. So we're going to start up at 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's our y-intercept. And now I'm going to go up 1, right 2. Now, if you need to pause the video real quick, then go ahead and do that so that you can get your line drawn, or just pause it when you need to. Now, you'll notice I went up 1, right 2, but just to make my line a little bit straighter, I also went down and left. That will create the same as up and right when we're graphing. So be very careful with your lines. So this is my first line. And even if you want to switch colors of pens, sometimes I do that just so that I can see the two. For the second one, go ahead and find what is m and what is b. M is -3, or you can think of that as -3/1, and b is -2. So we're going to start down here at -2, and then I'm going to count down 1, 2, 3/1. Now, counting down 3 and right 1 is the same as counting up and left. 1, 2, 3/1. I'm going to do it one more time. 1, 2, 3/1. Oh, right there I can see I'm going to run into that point right there. So to solve these two, you are graphing to see where they cross. Now remember, I know your ruler might be off slightly. My ruler on my red line was probably under just a tad bit, so it's not perfect, but this is where these two lines cross. I just highlighted it yellow. So these, because they have different slopes, I know that they are going to cross once, and where they are going to cross is at this ordered pair. So I want you to pause the video and tell me where these two lines cross, or what the solution is. So for these, our solution, it crosses here, is going to be left -2 and up 1, 2, 3, 4. So these two lines cross at -2 and 4. Now let's try the second one. So go ahead and pause the video, and I want you to graph both of these lines. Now keep in mind, for the second one, you're going to need to change it into y equals mx plus b in order to graph it. Okay, so go ahead and do that. So for number 2, our slope is 4, our b is 3. So here's where I'm going to start. I'm going to count up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4/1. We can also count down 1, 2, 3, 4, and left 1. So up and right is the same as down and left, and you'll be able to tell that just by placing your ruler on those points. Okay, now the second line we do need to change to y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to move my x over and get -4x plus 5, divide everything by -1, and I get 4x minus 5. So this slope is 4, and this b, or y-intercept, is -5. Right away I see that the slopes are the same, and we talked about that earlier. What happens when the slopes are the same? Well, when I graph it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4/1. I'm going to do it one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4/1. So what we talked about earlier, you can either have lines that intersect or cross. We could have lines that are parallel. I think that's what we ended up with here. These are parallel lines. So remember, parallel lines never cross. They have the same slope, so 4, but they have different y-intercepts. Well, you might be able to guess what this last example is going to be, because we've graphed an example of intersecting lines, parallel lines, so I'm guessing that this is going to end up being the same line. So for number 3, the first line we have the slope is -2, b is 1. So let's graph that. Go down 2/1, and so on. Feel free to pause again if you need to while you're graphing. And then I'm going to move around this second equation. We get 3y equals -6x plus 3. Then when I divide everything by 3, I get y equals -2x plus 1. Oh my goodness, that is the exact same line. The slope is -2, my b is 1. So if I start here and I count down 2/1 and I take my red pen and I draw it the same way, I have the same line. So these two lines have all solutions because they cross at every single point. So you have just seen an example of all three types. Intersecting was number 1, parallel was number 2, and same lines was number 3.